Hello, everyone. This morning I had something on my mind as I was reading the book of Mark, and I wanted to go over something that stood out to me. So we're in Mark 14, starting at verse 3. And being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious, and she brake the box and poured it on his head. That's poured it on Jesus' head. And there were some that had indignation within themselves, and said, Why was this waste of the ointment made? For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence, and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. And Jesus said, Let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. For you have the poor with you always, and when whosoever ye will, ye may do them good, but me ye have not always. She hath done what she could. She is come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. So, there was just one small thing that I wanted to point out here. First of all, verse 4. We see this woman doing this beautiful thing to Jesus, and to other people, I'm sure it looked maybe very bizarre in that time, for even a woman to walk in and just walk in and go straight to Jesus and be doing this would in itself, I'm sure, in the custom of the time, be totally bizarre. So there would have been a lot of indignation in the room, I'm sure. But what I wanted to point out was Matthew 26:8 says that this was actually Jesus' disciples that had the indignation against this act that they saw the woman do with Jesus. And there were some that had indignation within themselves. And this is the book of Mark, but in the book of Matthew, it says straight up that it was his disciples that had indignation when they saw this woman anointing Jesus, and pouring this ointment on his head. So, and there were some that had indignation within themselves. So I thought I'm going to take a look up indignation, keeping in mind that this was Jesus' disciples. I think I used to think that was the Pharisees looking on. And maybe that is in another book. I don't know. I'd have to go back and check that because I don't know that. But in this case here, it said in Matthew 8 that was his disciples, which kind of threw me for a loop. So they had indignation when they saw this woman. So let's look what indignation means. I looked that up, and it means indignation, anger or annoyance, provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. So these disciples of Jesus, they were angry about this woman coming in and, seeing this act done. This woman just strutting in off the street and straight up to Jesus and, pouring this ointment on his head. This it would have been a very expensive ointment. They were also annoyed. And that annoyance was provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment, is what the word indignation means. So they took that as, this money she's got, this ointment that pouring on you could have been given to the poor. Now here's something that came to my mind. For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. So they were murmuring against her. But what I want to point out here is, this is awful. Chapter 14:4. And there were some that had indignation within themselves. This is Jesus' own disciples, and said, why was this waste of the ointment made? So can I just point something out here that stood out to me? Why was this waste of the ointment made? Does that tell you anything? What that seems to me is, here's Jesus himself. Jesus, you know, Jesus the Messiah, sitting here, and this woman does a beautiful thing for him. And his disciples called this waste. That just blew me away. I mean, if these guys, they just, like in my last video, I was talking about these guys, you know, fumbling around and just, Jesus always rebuking them. And, you know, it's not comical, but it kind of is. And the reason it's comical is because it reminds me of so many times of myself and just of our human nature, you know. It just, when you're looking over on it on someone else, even though we do it ourselves, these things, it just looks kind of bizarre. And it's like, are you serious? So that's the comicalness of it, but it's not really comical at all, because here is Jesus. They just didn't get it most of the time, which helps me because I don't get it most of the time, and I do these bizarre things my own self, in my own religious mindset, my own self-righteousness, you know. Why was this waste of the ointment made? Hear this beautiful thing this woman's doing to anoint Jesus, the Messiah. This is God come in the flesh. And they're saying, this waste. Why was this waste done? You know, this is Jesus. This was not a waste. So anyway, that just stood out to me. I've never noticed that before. I thought that was something. So it said, perceived as the unfair treatment, and that was the definition of indignation. Provoke, anger or annoyance. They were annoyed, and it's provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. Well, their reasoning was it could have been given to the poor. But, you know, it says they had indignation within themselves. So if indignation was within themselves, that's kind of, it's in them. They were like really stirred up. And if it's within yourself, indignation, you know, anger or annoyance, being provoked, it's, you're pretty annoyed and you're pretty angry, and it was within themselves, probably filling up their heart right then, you know, towards this act that this woman did that Jesus called a beautiful thing. So they blamed it on, could have given it to the poor, you know. So if they were full of indignation when they said that, I have to wonder, did they really care that much about the poor when they said that? Or was that more like a sort of self-righteous, you know, oh, who's this woman coming in? The custom of the time, you know, she walk up and bold enough to do that to a man, you know, like, that's what I have to wonder. It doesn't say that, but that's what stood out to me anyway. And it says, and they murmured against her. They were murmuring right in front of Jesus against this woman. So the other thing I wanted to point out, and when whosoever ye will, ye may do them good, but me ye have not always. That's the poor. Okay, you can help the poor anytime. Like, he wanted them to notice this awesome thing she did for him. She hath done what she could. She is come beforehand to anoint my body to the burying. So what I want to point out there is, here these guys thought they had it all figured out, just like we all do, fumbling around again, you know. And, oh, well, self-righteous type of thing. In my case, I get that way lots of times. But the thing that come to my mind is his ways are not our ways. And actually, this was a very important thing that was supposed to happen, that she would anoint him for his burial. And he thought it was a beautiful thing that was done to him. He thought, it was a beautiful thing. And here these guys are all, oh my gosh, like, what's she doing? And it says they murmured against her. And what did he say to that? Leave her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. And the last thing I wanted to say was, first, yeah, his ways are not our ways. We will completely miss that, They completely missed that. And it was actually a very important, essential thing that he would be anointed for his burial. This was something that this needed to happen, and Jesus, his ways are higher than our ways. We don't know, he knows. And we don't think the same as Jesus does, okay? Let her alone. Why? They murmured against her. Let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. How I want to close this is, just like in one of my last videos where I'm talking, you can go back and look about Mary and Martha, right? Jesus said that, she had done the right thing. She had done the good thing, Mary, by sitting at his feet and just gazing into his eyes, But anyway, Jesus says, leave her alone. She hath wrought a good work on me. How, just like in the Mary and Martha one I did, and the Traditions of Man, video previous to this, she hath brought a good work on me. How often do we think good works are, oh, I got to go to this ministry, I got to go run down here and do this, I got to go run here, and a lot of it